Imagine scraping your teeth clean with a stick, crushed shells, or even burnt bones. No toothpaste, no toothbrush, no mint, just whatever nature happened to leave within reach. Yet people kept their teeth clean this way for thousands of years. So what actually worked? The answer isn't one invention. It's dozens of clever solutions, created independently by different civilizations, thousands of miles apart, each one using whatever nature placed around them, whatever grew in their soil, whatever washed up on their coastline, whatever their own culture had already learned to trust. Modern toothpaste, the kind sitting in your bathroom right now, is surprisingly recent when you place it against the full span of human history. But dental hygiene itself is ancient, stretching back long before written language, long before anyone could record exactly when it began. Long before supermarkets, before pharmacies, before a single dentist's office existed, people were already cleaning their teeth using plants, minerals, and handmade tools, working with instinct and trial and error rather than any formula. Some trusted trees, stripping bark and fiber for something rough enough to scrub against enamel. Others trusted crushed stone, grinding it down into a fine, gritty powder. And one civilization, as we'll see, may have quietly invented the ancestor of the very toothbrush still sitting in your bathroom cup today, centuries before anyone in the Western world thought to attach bristles to a handle. The earliest solution wasn't a brush at all. It was a stick. Across many ancient cultures, people used what historians now call chewing sticks, twigs cut from specific trees, frayed carefully at one end until the fibers separated into something close to natural bristles, then rubbed directly against the teeth and gums. This wasn't random. Different cultures gravitated toward different plants, and remarkably, many of these plants happened to contain natural antibacterial compounds, whether or not anyone at the time understood the chemistry behind why they worked so well. The best documented example by far is the miswak, taken from the Salvadora persica tree. Archaeological finds, ancient Egyptian records, and centuries of Islamic historical texts all reference its use, and it hasn't disappeared into history the way so many ancient tools have. Modern dental research has actually studied the miswak directly, confirming what generations of use had already suggested, that it carries genuine antibacterial properties. It remains in active use today, in some regions, sitting right alongside modern toothpaste rather than being replaced by it entirely. But a stick could only do so much. What happened when civilizations wanted something stronger, something that could actually clean rather than simply scrub? In ancient Egypt, people didn't just brush. They mixed. Medical papyri from ancient Egypt describe powdered preparations for cleaning teeth, and modern researchers have reconstructed one recipe using ingredients such as rock salt, dried iris flower, mint, and pepper. This represents one reconstructed formula, not necessarily the only toothpaste Egyptians used. It's worth being precise about what this actually was. This wasn't a paste in the modern sense, nothing smooth, nothing squeezed from a tube. It functioned as an abrasive cleaning powder, something applied and worked against the teeth to physically scrape away buildup, closer in spirit to a scouring agent than to the minty gel most of us squeeze onto a toothbrush today. Still, think about what that recipe actually represents. Someone, thousands of years ago, was deliberately combining ingredients, adjusting a formula, refining a mixture specifically for oral hygiene. This wasn't an accident stumbled into once. It was documented, deliberate, medical knowledge, passed down and preserved well enough that we can still read the recipe today. If powders worked so well for the Egyptians, why did later civilizations start grinding even stranger ingredients into their own versions? The Greeks and Romans took this idea and pushed it somewhere considerably more abrasive. Writers like Pliny the Elder documented tooth powders made from an unusual combination of materials: charcoal, crushed bones, oyster shells, pumice, and various herbs, ground down and mixed for daily use. Picture it for a moment, someone in ancient Rome working a rough, gritty powder made partly from crushed shell and volcanic stone directly against their teeth, polishing enamel the same way you might polish a stone surface. These powders weren't gentle, but they served a genuine purpose, helping to physically remove debris and polish the surface of the teeth, a rough but functional solution shaped entirely by whatever raw materials happened to be close at hand, from quarries, kitchens, and the shoreline alike. But while Europe was busy experimenting with increasingly abrasive powders, another civilization on the other side of the world was quietly reinventing the tool itself. China took a completely different path. Instead of endlessly refining the powder, Chinese innovation focused on the brush. Herbal tooth powders were already common practice, much like elsewhere in the ancient world. But during the Song dynasty, something genuinely new appeared, a tool combining hog bristles attached firmly to a handle carved from bamboo or bone. This wasn't just another powder recipe or another twig pulled from a tree. It was a purpose-built instrument, engineered specifically for brushing, and historians widely consider it one of the earliest true ancestors of the modern toothbrush, centuries before anything resembling it would appear in Europe. But not everyone owned a specialized bristled tool like this. Bamboo handles and hog bristles weren't universally available, and manufacturing them took skill and resources many ordinary households simply didn't have. So how did everyday people, far from Song dynasty workshops, actually keep their teeth clean? In medieval Europe, most people relied on considerably simpler household items. Linen cloth, rubbed directly across the teeth, served as an improvised brush. Salt, sage, charcoal, and various herbs remained common cleaning materials, most of them already sitting in a kitchen or garden rather than purchased specially for dental care. Toothpicks, too, were widely used, a small but genuinely important tool for clearing debris caught between teeth after a meal. None of this required specialized manufacturing or rare imported ingredients. It was resourceful, practical, built entirely from what an ordinary household already had within reach. Yet here's perhaps the biggest surprise hiding inside this entire story. Having no toothpaste didn't always mean having bad teeth. Many people naturally assume ancient teeth must have been in terrible condition, simply because toothpaste as we know it didn't exist yet. But the archaeological evidence tells a far more surprising, far more complicated story. Studies of ancient skulls, particularly among hunter-gatherer populations, often reveal heavily worn teeth, ground down by coarse, fibrous, unprocessed food, but relatively few cavities compared to what you might expect. The wear was real. The decay, strikingly, often wasn't. That pattern shifted dramatically once agriculture spread. As diets increasingly centered around grains and other carbohydrate-rich foods, cavities became noticeably more common across skeletal remains from this period onward, and centuries later, when refined sugar entered the picture at scale, tooth decay rose dramatically once again. A clear, measurable pattern bioarchaeologists can trace directly through the teeth themselves, layer by layer, population by population. Toothpaste, as it eventually developed, absolutely helped improve oral hygiene over time. But diet, it turns out, was often just as important, and in some periods, arguably even more important, than whatever people were actually cleaning their teeth with. If ancient people could sometimes have healthier teeth without any toothpaste at all, simply because of what they were eating, what does that actually say about how we think about our own dental care today? There was never one single ancient toothpaste, no universal formula passed down unchanged across the world. Every civilization cleaned its teeth differently, using whatever plants, minerals, and tools happened to be available within its own environment, shaped by geography, climate, culture, and daily life. Some trusted chewing sticks, pulled straight from a tree with proven antibacterial properties. Some mixed carefully measured abrasive powders, refined and documented well enough to survive on papyrus for thousands of years. Some invented early toothbrushes entirely, engineering bristles and handles centuries ahead of the rest of the world. And every single one of them, regardless of continent or century, was trying to solve the exact same everyday problem, long before the toothpaste tube ever existed. The tube of toothpaste on your sink isn't the beginning of this story. It's simply the newest chapter. For thousands of years, people cared for their teeth using the plants, minerals, and tools around them. What changed over time wasn't just what they brushed with, it was also what they ate. Long before mint-flavored toothpaste, the desire for a healthy smile was already part of being human.